No, you're not experiencing deja vu. Yes, something similar happened last month where a new update broke Pokemon TCG Live. Thankfully, this time around it's not as bad, because that's how all successful games are measured. Not based on how much each new update improves the game, but by how little it breaks it. In the previous developer letter from October, the team addressed a lot of the player feedback from one of the surveys, mentioning that players disliked the art style, including elements like avatars, board design, and overall UI layout. To remedy this, they gave us the new board effects, adding that they had plans to add more background effects in future updates. Well, the future is now because they have added those new board effects. And for those wondering, these only came to the desktop versions of Live, not the mobile ones. I mean, could you imagine all of this on mobile? Instead of your phone being able to cook a hamburger patty, you'd be able to create a brand new sun. Anyways, I was optimistic going in because the early looks I saw of the board effects were promising. Then I saw all of them in action. Previously, when you promoted new Pokemon to the active spot, there would be a visual flourish that lasted for a few seconds but eventually disappeared. Now it's constant, never goes away, and there's no option to turn it off in the settings. The fact that you can't turn off the effects is a massive oversight because the darkness one is causing slowdown for numerous players. I've also seen reports of the dragon effect negatively impacting performance as well. Let me show you each of the 11 new board effects, starting with the good and eventually working my way down to the really bad. Ignoring the fact that the board change is way too immediate when a new Pokemon is promoted, I'd say the metal effect is the best. It's static and doesn't cause any sort of dizziness. Unfortunately, the developers cut a lot of corners here, just like they did when they improved the game speed. This time around, they merely put the new effect over top of the existing board so you can still play with the hexagons underneath. Next up is fighting. This is the perfect balance of movement plus static. There's little tiny effects going across the screen, but nothing too distracting to go along with a really cool broken Pokeball in the middle. And that's the end of the good board effects. Yes, there's realistically 2 or 3 good ones and 8 or 9 bad ones. For the fairy board, which you can only see in Live's version of Expanded, the crystals never stop moving. A common theme with these new effects is that you can't look at the screen without getting dizzy. Plus, for a few of them, there are random visual flickers every few seconds. Psychic is the worst offender for dizziness. The developers seriously thought that trying to hypnotize the players into thinking that TCG Live is a good game would be a smart idea. If you want to implement something with such intense effects, you should have someone stare at the screen for at least an hour straight. If they report no ill effects afterwards, it's good to go. Now, while I'll admit that the Dragon Board does look really cool when it comes to the effect of the blue Pokeball in the middle, the random flaming blue wings are weird. They're also likely what causes slowdown for players. Still, transforming the Pokeball is a really nice touch. Water and grass both suffer from the same issue. The grass effect is fine, showing us grass blowing in the wind that does hurt your eyes if you stare at it for too long. But then there's the random flicker in the middle every few seconds. For water, it's also glitched, providing us with another random flicker every few seconds in the middle of the screen. I could maybe understand the developers not experiencing slowdown in their testing, provided they used high-end PCs, but how did this get past their testing? When it comes to lightning Pokemon, it's always raining. If it was just that, I might let it pass. But there's also constant lightning flashes happening on the board, causing the shadows on the pebbles to give players headaches. Fire's molten effect is cool, but the embers constantly zipping around the screen at hyperspeed are far too distracting. Still, it's not the worst board effect they've introduced, so I guess that's something? The penultimate board is colorless. So you know how everyone loves the hexagons in Pokemon TCG Live and wishes there were just more of them everywhere? The developers heard your calls and decided to add sparkly effects to them. That's what you wanted, right? And finally, darkness. It's far too intense, makes the game literally unwatchable, and as I mentioned earlier, it causes immense slowdown for certain players. It's like they didn't think the psychic effect was strong enough, so they decided to make something 10 times more intense. Keep in mind that this is what the developers have been working on for the past 4 months. Not fixing the economy, not adding a game log, not adding new game modes, but instead new board effects that break the game. And also, they put the gloating victory quotes into a speech bubble that's placed at the avatar's stomach. Believe it or not, I don't enjoy when Pokemon TCG Live breaks every month. The laughter is so you can't hear me crying, like why Deadpool's suit is red. I'm a huge fan of the Pokemon TCG and I want it to succeed, but it seems like the Pokemon Company doesn't. Regardless of whether or not it's in beta, anyone in the world can download Live right now. If they experience even a fraction of the issues I see on a daily basis, they'll delete the game and never come back. I haven't even gotten to the rest of the problems. With the new update, you can now flip over your opponent's prize cards, take them out of the sleeves, and cause them to just completely glitch out. My favorite new glitch is a two-parter. So in the patch notes, the team said they fixed an issue where players are not able to close the discard pile if only cards with abilities that can be activated are in it. But in true TCG Live fashion, they fixed one thing and broke two more. Not only is the ability to scroll through either discard pile completely removed after the update, but now random cards will show they can be used at random times even when they can't. In my first stream after the update, Live said I could play Mirage Gate on turn 1 as a basic Pokemon, use my opponent's capture energy from their discard pile, and just so much more. Oh, and the bug where cards won't become highlighted when their ability can be used still isn't fixed. Also, for whatever reason, there's no ban for Sky Sealstone. We're almost a week removed from the launch of Crown Zenith, and the developers don't seem to think of VMAX taking extra prize cards is a big deal. Not to mention the lack of updates regarding the compensation. I won't go into details on these issues because I literally made a video a few days ago talking about TCG Live's latest problems in 2023. And then they released this update making the game worse. On the bright side, they did fix Keldeo, Cobalion, and Altaria, which have all been broken since launch in November. And they did unban Furisode Girl, but Hisuian Zoroark and Galarian Slowking V are still banned because of the glitch with Echoing Horn. We're less than a month away from the TCG Live beta celebrating its first birthday, and 2 months away from the Scarlet and Violet generation and potential closure of PTCGL. If you're a fan of the Pokemon TCG, neither of those events should excite you. They should terrify you.